actually. Let's first go to my man Paul Rodriguez, Recon athlete. Paul, I appreciate you being patient with me. Thanks for listening in.
Hey, that man Snoop Dennis, how you doing, brother? I'm good.
Hey, man, quarantine. That's how we do. Hey, real quick, Paul, before we talk about recruiting, just a quick thought on 11-5A. Your thoughts on that district?
Man, I think you're spot on with those running backs with Oakmont and Nwabuko, man. I think Che is going to be a man on a mission. I see him all over Twitter. And, you hit the nail on the head with Oakmont. He's just going to be a junior. So I see a lot of big things for that district. And I think that the coach of the year, man, I don't know, man. I think new head man in Manor High School may have something to say, especially if there's a little rivalry between Manor and Cedar Park there.
James Keller, he's talking about former assistant, now elevated to, and you know what, like Paul, you talk about a player's affinity for their head coach and wanting to play for a head coach, and I don't think you could have a better relationship between new head coach Keller and the Manor Mustangs coming off a state quarterfinal run.
True that, and I think I really saw that with your special guest tonight with Princely. I really saw that whenever he was going live to make his decision to go to Florida. He was actually like explicitly asking like, "Hey, where's Coach Keller? Where's Coach Keller?" Before he wanted to get on ESPN there. But I thought that was really cool to see that, and for the affinity for those young men to follow their head coach like that and actually campaign to have him be the next head coach for the Manor Mustangs, I thought was admirable by all those young men. Just a good representation of the community.
Yeah, and I was saying if they couldn't lure Sad Jackson to come back from the Frisco area to coach them, that they needed to let Coach Keller, because again, like I think what they did last year, beating Cedar Park in that game, before falling to Shadow Creek, when you think about a running back like Tosh Brooks who's going to Texas Tech and talk about, a 4-year catalog for him, it was like icing on the cake and maybe a good intro for Keller his last year as an assistant.
For sure. Then, like not only with Che in the backfield, you got Levante Bedford too, man. And so that two-headed monster in the backfield is going to be extremely dangerous for that whole district. But there's a ton of great defenses in there. We know we can't forget the Timberwolves of Cedar Park, but who knows, it could be a come-up year for anybody, just like how we saw Weiss jump up last year in their district. We could see another big school rise up to the occasion, hopefully in 2020.
Yeah, Paul, man, I'm not trying to make this into an 11-5A segment. I thought we were going to talk about recruiting, but I got to say, while we're talking about 11-5A, all those superlatives of preseason winners or I guess watch list that we were talking about. You talk Ryder Hernandez, Oakmont, Herman, Cameron, Lemire. You know what, Cord? None of those guys play on Anderson or Hendrickson, and both of those teams could do big things in 11-5A.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see how much talent there is just within this one district. And that's, I think, the beauty of what we have here in the Austin area is that there's so many different districts with so much high-end talent that it's just a field day for, all of us media guys covering these high school athletes. But I'm with you, man. It'll be a great spectacle to see. Hopefully we don't have to have an adjusted schedule per UIL, but like you said, that COVID cloud that's around us right now, we have to do what's in the best interest of public health and for all the young student athletes that we have on the field.
Yeah, and by the way, those two teams I mentioned at the end, both Hendrickson and Anderson, are dropping down from 6A. So you're coming with that Anderson program that's coming off back-to-back years of playing programs like Lake Travis and Westlake, and then you got Hendrickson coming off playing teams like Round Rock and Cedar Ridge and Stony Point and Westwood. So. And I would say, I would almost say in any other situation when you're dropping from 6A to 5A, you would be wiping your brow. But I'm almost, if you're Hendrickson or Anderson, you're kind of gritting your teeth.
Definitely, for sure. In that Pflugerville area, man, I think it's just, it's like cousins playing cousins. And it's just so much talent between each school that for it to be so localized, it's going to be impressive for next year.
Okay, thanks. Okay, Paul Rodriguez, Recon athlete. All right, Paul, the reason I brought you on recruiting, and big shout out to Recon athlete doing a great job keeping up with recruiting, Paul, because I know, when you're like Thomas Jones at the Austin Statesman, you're stretched so thin covering every ounce of sports, both boys and girls, that you really can't dive. I don't feel they have the personnel to be able to dive deep into recruiting, and I feel what you're doing really is underdone, not by you, but just as people as a whole, keeping track of what these Austin area players are doing as far as getting recruiting offers to play at the next level.
Yeah, and it's a tough thing to do, that you're kind of monitoring on through Twitter on a daily basis, and for so many offers to be coming in, just like we had today, like before we even got on the show, Ryder Hernandez just picked up another offer from Sam Houston, and I think the biggest thing that I kind of wanted to bring out was, the offensive MVP for the state champion Westlake Chaparrals was Kirkland Michaud, and I think that the SEC, especially Mississippi State, was recognizing how next QB1 up, Cade Klubnik, how he got those offers from LSU and from Ole Miss. I think Mississippi State said, man, did we sleep on Kirkland Michaud this whole season? And then for them running out of offers, that's why they kind of reached out and gave that preferred walk-on offers, because their offers were extinguished. And so I think we're going to start seeing a lot more monkey see, monkey do from these schools. If you want to see a monkey see, monkeys do analogy, just look at RJ Martinez and Ryder Hernandez. As soon as one school offers, the other school offers the other student athlete. And so it's kind of a seesaw battle. And I think that, I feel a little bit bad, not so bad because he's a state champion, but I think Kirkland probably could have got some bigger offers. He has one in the chamber right now from Fordham. So that's cool that he's got an offer on the table. But I think that a lot of these other bigger schools who probably could have used a state championship offensive MVP on their roster kind of missing out right now.
Y'all, listen to these stats. I'm just looking at Kirkland Michaud's stats. And by the way, he was really looking forward to playing baseball with his fellow seniors this year. But, of course, the UIL ruling coming down, canceling all spring sports, he won't be able to do so. But how many touchdowns would you estimate Michaud threw last year?
Man, you could throw to Mason, to Jaden, and to Ryan. I mean, probably, I would say 45.
Good job. 44, Paul. Great.
Okay.
On top of rushing for 7 more. So 50-plus touchdowns, a quarterback rating of 128. Basically, and really, like, when you think about Westlake, they went into the season, Drew Willoughby, Cade Klubnik, and Kirkland Michaud all getting playing time at quarterback. And Kirkland basically beat them out. He played so well that the other two were relegated to the bench.
Yeah, man, I think that senior leadership is really what stuck out, and having a little bit of more maturity in Coach Dodge's system for him to kind of, after they get deep in probably middle of the district play, they probably kind of said, okay, let's go ahead and name our starters so that when we go into the playoffs, we have a little bit more cohesiveness, and their number one QB1 to lead the Westlake Chaparrals, in which ultimately they did win a state title. And just props to them, and also props to Tony Salazar and that defense, man. I mean, holding teams deep in the playoffs to like 7 or no points is tremendous.
Yeah. You talk about Tony Salazar, a member of that defense, Lucas Maru, getting a couple of offers from Cornell and Columbia, also from that Westlake squad. You talk about Zane Miners. Getting a plethora of Ivy League offers, just raining down. And Hayden Bray, I think it's a sleeper. Paul, like, we're running short on time, but any last thoughts on the Austin area recruiting news?
I think that there's going to be a big run on these quarterbacks, RJ Martinez and Ryder Hernandez. I think you're getting a lot of FCS schools. And I think Ryder mentioned it in his interview because I was listening. Those big G5 or Power 5 schools and G5 schools are going to come in with big offers once the season gets rolling in 2020.
All right, Paul, I appreciate you. I wish I could have you on longer, and probably will going forward. You're such a great guest all the time. You're so knowledgeable. It's really hard to find a consistency in people covering sports, because some people cover it for a month or two. They ghost 6 months, might come back. But what you've been doing with Recon has been consistent, and that's the most important element. Just be consistent. Show these kids that you care every day. You've done it, and we appreciate you. Before we let you go, who you shouting out to?
Oh, man, just want to shout out to all the medical professionals. And I know I said it like last time, but I don't think everybody understands the crucial fight that they're really in right now. And I think that we're starting to see the light at the end of the tunnel, but we also need to make sure that, we keep our social distancing and follow the guidelines set forth by our elected officials.
Paul, appreciate you. Thank you so much. Paul Rodriguez, Recon athlete. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, Snoop.
Thanks, Paul. All right. Flex ATX.